This is the Guillermo Moreno Show.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it?
You.
I have a great responsibility, possibly bad. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand opposed. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
Well, in all of my this is Guillermo Moreno, a little squeaky. Sounds like I've been partying out with the red wave that did not happen. This is Guillermo Moreno. This is not anybody else. I might not sound like Guillermo Moreno, but in all of my broadcasting career, ever since I had the intro there that you hear, I don't know if I can handle the truth today. So maybe I should have actually played a different intro. But here's just the skinny. I'm extremely worried about 2024. I know you're probably saying, Guillermo, we don't even have 2022 figured out yet. But based off of what is happening, based off of our slim majority in the House currently, right now, or will hopefully be the majority real soon, I am extremely worried about 2024. The numbers didn't come out to what I would have liked to see, what Kevin McCarthy would have liked to see, or any of the pundits would have liked to see. So I am extremely worried about 2024. And apparently, America isn't as bad off as I originally thought. I've been telling everybody, surely the average American is feeling the pinch at the pump. They're feeling the pinch at the grocery store. They're feeling the pinch everywhere, and they're gonna vote their wallets. But apparently, America is not that bad off, to where last night they sent a resounding message to the White House and to Congress saying, you know what, I think we're going to take a different path. So apparently, America isn't as bad off as I even thought it was. But I, Jim Franklin said that Guillermo was going to be doom and gloom, be all doom and gloom. It was like Armageddon coming down. It is, it's not good. But as Jim Franklin told me, he goes, Guillermo, is it better than it was a day ago? I said, well, I guess. But I wanted to see, as a conservative, I wanted to see us win control of the House by like 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is now well into the 4 o'clock hour, and we're still not officially in control of the House. Now, I get it. We're predicted to get control, but we really should have had a huge victory party last night. We're almost 24 hours later, and we still don't have a solid majority just yet in either house. But here to break it down for me and with me and give my voice a little bit of a break is my esteemed panel. Lisa Moreno, the president of Talk Radio 1550 KXEX, my favorite family member is my mom. So of course, and Sean Burdine, he is our political analyst. He is a brain. He knows the numbers. He's been watching the ballots. That's right. He's been watching the process for you here in Fresno County. So he's going to have amazing insight. Sean, welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always good to talk to you. Now, I'm a little jealous here because, you have the second best hair in the studio right now, right behind my. So I mean, you're a hair. I love your hair. I like my hair. So we're hair buddies. We'll call it that way. And you on radio, you can't see it, but just imagine my hair, and then Sean's is like right there with me. So appreciate you. Appreciate what's inside your brain even more. What happened last night? What happened?
Well, I think last night, to be honest, I think with the way we were kind of branding everything, kind of setting ourselves up. I think whenever you are, really pushing yourself as, projecting yourself to have these major victories, if those major victories don't come through, no matter what, it's going to look bad. It's going to feel bad. And I think, branding it weeks leading up to this as this giant red tsunami really kind of changed the perception of what was going to happen here. So I think a lot of conservative voters kind of felt a little bit more complacent. We're on track. Maybe they didn't feel that sense of urgency to make it out of the polls, whereas the other side did. They feel like they're under threat. They feel like, all these MAGA Republicans are going to destroy the country. So there's very different perceptions there. And then ultimately, we really need to be able to frame our successes, not allow our opposition to frame our failures. And so today, I think we're kind of looking at things, ourselves and the opposition, because we had these really, really big hopes and expectations. And there's still a lot of good in this. I'd say it's actually a mixed bag that we've got. It obviously was not as good as we wanted, but we need to be able to find those good things where we can find them, and learn from the things that didn't go the way we expected them.
I love the way you put it. Perception. I mean, we really thought there was going to be a red wave, and we were talking about the size of the red wave.
Yeah.
I mean, we were not only that. I mean, we were talking there's going to be a tsunami. That's how big this thing is going to be. And then I think you're spot on. I think we made it out to be this massive victory, and we just let ourselves down.
I think there's going to be an element of that. It looks like, looking at for local and nationwide, it's about a 40%-ish turnout across the board. And, we don't have the official numbers to see partisan breakdown on any of that yet, and I'd love to see that later. But I am kind of feeling like this might have been another election where Republicans didn't quite turn out in force like we wanted them to.
Yeah, and I was saying that weeks leading up, I said, listen, I think one of the factors is going to be, are we going to turn out? Are we going to turn up? Are we going to show up? Not turn up, show up. Lisa Moreno, the president of KXCX, what happened last night, especially with the Republicans? Like, what happened?
In looking at it locally, as Sean was mentioning, I think it was a little bit more of complacency and just waiting to make sure that it happened, but not being part of the happen. So essentially, I think a lot of Republicans thought, we got this in the bag. This is going to be big. We're going to win. I'm okay. And perhaps the numbers will show the story and tell the story better at the end of the day. But
it's not over yet.
It's not over yet,
Sean,
for sure.
Sean's going to tell us in a little bit how far away this is from over, but it's not over.
Well, because we already had this discussion prior to the show, I'm excited for him to share that with the public, but with our audience. But I think that at the end of the day, there is so much to take away from this election. It's not only the voter turnout, it's who turned out. And talking about the candidates, which candidates. And so when we talk about this and dissect it more as the days go by, and in a week or so, when more numbers are updated, it'll give us a better, bigger picture. But at the end of the day, I think that the complacency took a little bit more of an effect on Republicans. The Democrats kept on doing what they're doing, they do, and that's get the vote out.
So far, perception, we aimed too high, or we gave us this false perception. Republicans so far just didn't turn out. The other thing I saw last night was extremism on either side just wasn't in style. We saw this locally with Beva Islas, Terry Sladek. We're seeing it on the national scale. America is really in the middle. I think that's what really happened as well.
I think that's totally spot on also. I think this is one of those things, we've had such hyper polarized politics for years now. I mean, like several years of nonstop onslaught of politics. I think by and large, the average person is tired of it. I think, I have no doubt that, the average listener on here, very engaged, very involved, but I don't think that's necessarily true of, just the average person in the country. I think for the most part, people would prefer not care about politics if they don't need to. They want to go to work. They want to have the money at the end of the day to enjoy with their family, their friends, go on their vacations. Yeah. And they're just sick and tired of it coming from all different angles. And so I think that's definitely a contributing factor. And people just want to find those common grounds again.
Yeah, and I think campaign strategy also was a big factor last night. How the Democrat House candidates were able to separate themselves from President Joe Biden. I mean, that was a winning strategy for them. I don't understand how they were able to do it. And the conservatives, I think we overplayed our hand again and just relying on voters to be like, well, they feel it in their pocketbook. They see what's going on. They're going to vote for me anyways. So, I mean, a lot of this rests on the candidates.
I think there's always going to be a factor of that, too. I mean, if the candidates can't motivate people to get out and vote,
right.
I mean, the candidate cannot win on their own. The candidate needs to win by the support of people, whether it be getting out the voter, the ground game, all that stuff. And, that's some of the stuff that maybe as we get further down from this, more to look at, more to analyze. But at this time, trying to figure out.
Did that surprise you? I was talking earlier with Lisa, and we were talking about the local candidates that walked versus the candidates that didn't walk. You still have a lot of candidates, unfortunately, that they feel like I'm going to put up signs. I'm going to do as much media as I can. I'm going to try to get free media, and I'll just do mailers. But it might not be effective anymore to campaign that way.
I mean, it's hard to really say. I think because one of the things that I think really makes the time so unique compared to previous elections is how, people no longer really turn to the same central places for, commercials and advertisements. And you don't really see all that stuff. So people are spread out everywhere. And so I think right now, is how do you kind of effectively get your name out there? I think one of the things, to really kind of talk about too here is, I mean, I was really looking a lot at all of the California races, and it's incumbents across the board. Like very few people that beat an incumbent this time in California. Very few. And so I think a large part of that's just that name recognition. So if you are a challenger, how do you overcome that? How do you really get that big name recognition out there where you can kind of get people to listen to you, care about you, to know you, to want to support you? Those are tough questions. There's big obstacles for anybody who's trying to run a race as a political candidate.
Yeah, incumbency. I mean, the power of incumbency. We saw that last night.
A couple of angles. I think both of you bring up really good points. In addition to that, talking about incumbents, Michelle Steele won, Mike Garcia won, their congressional races. Suzette Valladares for assembly.
Oh, she went.
Yes, she did.
Ask you about that.
She won as well. And so I think there's a demographic that the Democrats perhaps were banking on, and I think it did produce dividends as far as the suburban mom, the factor of the women vote. And I think that's huge. Something that I think that Republicans.
Who is the suburban mom? Everyone keeps talking about the suburban mom. We see television shows, and they're always women that go out and do grocery shopping every day. They're in gym attire, like this suburban mom. Like, who is the suburban mom that is a big player? The suburban, and they are. Who is the suburban mom?
Not only suburban moms, I think also, but the college student, if you will. Those two demographics, I think that Republicans forget about and take for granted that if it's the economy and how your pocketbook is being affected. But suburban moms, yes, I think that economy and money and it matters and everything's important. But it's a different spectrum of thought process in the suburban mom and the woman, period. When you look at the races and how women vote, it's not always on the issues that Republicans think they're going to vote for. And as a result, you see the Dems, they're winning across the nation.
When the abortion decision came out, I really didn't. I think I said it. I don't think it's going to have any impact on the midterms. It was so far away from the midterms. I think the leak ended up deflating really any opposition, the way that kind of all happened. This is really early on. Thank God the Supreme Court did this when they did. This isn't going to be a factor, but I'm not a female. I'm not a suburban female. So maybe I was dead wrong.
Well, you know what, on that particular topic too, looking at the measures also today where kind of our early results are, and measure one, the one for abortion.
Yeah, the Prop 1.
Prop 1.
Yeah.
Prop 1. It's got massive yes right now. Massive support for that one. A lot of them are kind of back and forth, but even that tells me that even on more conservative leaning side, there's probably some crossover there. And then also, I mean, it just tells you, I think, a big part of what the voter base was this time, and maybe we did underestimate how important of a topic it is to a lot of voters across the country. Maybe not in every state, but for some of them, very big.
So yeah, that's a really good point. So when we look at how the state voted, from the propositions to the congressional seats to the local seats, I don't think you had as many voters. I'm sure you had a lot of them just voting D all the way down, or R all the way down. But I think a lot of voters voted for. I mean, they hopped around. I think they might have voted yes on Prop 1 for abortion, and then they went over and they voted for Mike Garcia. But then they maybe have voted for Gavin Newsom. So maybe the California voter isn't, a straight line ticket voter.
I have to agree with that. How do you get, just off the top of my head, how do you get Ted Gaines to always win?
Yeah.
Right? And he's a Republican. And so,
that's his big districts. I normally I'd say, well, he's in a conservative district, but I mean,
no, he's not.
There's
you're right.
They're huge.
It's a huge spread that he has. That's important. And my concern, talking about concerns, and just giving constructive feedback, in my opinion, the top-down ticket matters huge. In this race, you didn't have a big name Republican at the top of the ticket. It's not a general election, it's a midterm, obviously. But my worry is with the Republican base, if there's not that wow factor, I'm out for this one candidate, regardless of who the candidate is. Last election, it was former President Trump. If there is not that wow factor candidate, my worry is the Republican base sometimes may not feel inclined to go that extra step and come out saying my vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter. We're going to lose anyway. We live in a blue state. All these reasons that are given.
People talk,
that drives me crazy.
Yesterday, I talked to so many people, and they were conservatives. Like, hey, did you vote? And like, what are you talking about? You got to vote. And like, well, it is what it is. I mean, there's so much complacency.
Well, I think also part of it's if they're not complacent, some of them I think are honestly like this idea that we can never win. They get that in their mindset, and of course, it's like what's that quote? Like, where I think it's Ford. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right. And so you create like this self-fulfilling prophecy where it's just like, oh, we can never win. So try. And so of course you're never going to win. And so I think that's going to be one of the things that's difficult is to kind of overcome that mindset. And I think especially that's why looking at yesterday, we do need to try to figure out what the successes are because we got to figure out how we are going to win the next one and go from there.
That's key. That is key.
On that note,
yeah, go ahead.
On that note, because it is key for the first time, and this is a success. I hope Pastor Jim Franklin's listening. This is an optimist.
He better be.
Looking at the glass half full, if not overflowing, and not half empty. For the first time in history, Texas' 15th congressional district will be represented by a Republican. Not only a Republican, but a female. Not only a female, but a Latina. So for the first time in history, Monica de la Cruz is making history in South Texas as the first Republican to win in that district. More importantly, she ran against Michelle Vallejo. And Michelle Vallejo ran on a platform of progressive social policy and family ties to the region. Totally different platform, totally different way of campaigning. But also, de la Cruz has been said to be a trendsetter. She actually ran 2 years ago. She ran 2 years ago against a Democrat Representative Vicente Gonzalez, and she only lost by 3 percentage points. So fast forward, she comes back 2 years later, and she was outspent that 2 years ago, and now she very much impressed and motivated other Latina candidates to run. The 28th district saw Casey Garcia run, and the 34th district, Mayra Flores, whom we know so well. But on a positive note, like you said, we have to figure out which successes we can build upon. And if we have to look at another state to do that, that's perfectly fine. Look at Monica de la Cruz, totally above 10 plus voter reg.
How do you reconcile that with like Mayra Flores? I mean, she's Latina. I mean, she's more Latina because she's from Mexico. So I mean, how do you reconcile? She lost.
Honestly,
how do you reconcile it?
Honestly, I'd love to say that. I'm not going to say I'm right, but if I had to just give my opinion humbly, I can say that right now that Mayra Flores campaigned differently than Monica de la Cruz. Her approach to when she was asked, "What do you think made the difference in you winning today or yesterday?" Her approach was, it's just about not being able to pay the bills. It's just being able to make sure that we give the border, law enforcement at the border, security to secure our border, the tools that they need. She said they don't even have night goggles.
Yeah,
it was simple. It wasn't complicated, and it wasn't divisive.
So it looked like when President Trump ran, he ran on the first time. He ran on a very, hey, you're tired of this, I'm tired of it. It was a very, hey, we need to do a knee-jerk reaction. We got to build a wall. We got to do this. And then in 2020, it was a totally different message. Now it looks like the American public accepted it 6 years ago, and today they don't want this drastic change. They want someone not to talk about the wall. They want someone to just be right in the middle. Am I making?
I think so.
Sense? I think the American public is very finicky in when hey, we want you to do that drastic knee-jerk proposal. And it looks like this time around it was like, well, we want you to be more in the middle. Let's not talk about big ticket items, and maybe that's why she lost. Mayra Flores. I don't know.
The way she campaigned, every time I used to listen to her speak when she was interviewed, her approach was a little bit more forward, a little bit more blunt, if you will. I admire her highly. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But De La Cruz, she came across more as a centrist candidate.
Centrist, yeah.
It was more of a I really feel the pain of the area I'm trying to represent. I feel their concern. It was more compassionate, more centrist.
Can I? The CAGOP gets beat up all the time, and we're former CAGOP elected members, you and myself. The CAGOP gets a bad name. If there's something that they've done very effectively, and they've had this mentality where it says you got to run people that look like the district. You can't run. You can't run.
Candidate.
You can't run Jim Franklin in East LA. I mean, Jim Franklin could get along in East LA just fine, but you can't run him in East LA.
I'd love to be in the room with him right
now. But Young Kim, Michelle Steele,
right,
Mike Garcia,
totally.
They look like the district.
Yeah, well, I think that gets back into figuring out how to get candidates that are aspiring to their district that a lot of support, and people really do want to really see themselves in their candidate. I think
I'm gonna put you on the hot seat then.
That's a good point.
David Valadeo. David Valadeo. David Valadeo. It looked like, and he's smiling today. It looked like disassociating himself from Trump and then reminding everybody about that disassociation a couple of days ago, saying, "Hey, don't forget, I don't like the guy." It seemed to have paid dividends for him.
Maybe there's so much to sort out in all of this stuff, and we can't discount how much of a hit job we've done on Trump for those several years.
Yeah.
So many of the policies, I feel like if you told like an average voter on the street, like, oh, this is what Biden did, and you just list the policy, they'd be totally on board with it. But because it came from Trump, and so it's kind of getting past that sort of mindset with a lot of average voters who don't necessarily think about the policy of it. They think about the personality of the person.
Yeah.
And so because he's so poisoned in the minds of a lot of maybe even people who are conservative now, but have only started moving that way, like he's still in their mind, like.
He's right there.
Yeah, he's right there.
Hey, Sean, I want to talk about, we have Sean Burdine with us, political analyst, Lisa Moreno, the president of KXEX. Sean, you are the most interesting person that I've met in the last 2 days because of what you do around election time. You do something very special and it's very insightful. Tell our listeners where you were last night and today.
Well, I like spending my time actually at the ballot processing center for our county. So for me, the last couple of years, once we figured out that, hey, there's questions about our election system, I wanted to learn as much as possible as I possibly could. So I spent lots of time learning all about the election codes, the election policies, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, all that stuff, and just go hang out a lot of the vote centers, see how they operate, talk to anybody, just introduce myself, and just kind of watch. But my favorite place to really spend time is actually at the ballot processing center, which is where all the vote-by-mail ballots go. They go through all of the steps in order to be counted, tabulated, all that stuff. And so that's where I was last night and earlier today.
Describe the scene. What is it like? I'm imagining a huge warehouse, chaos everywhere, ballots flying through the air.
So, yeah, well, it is in the county warehouse. So it's also, our county warehouse also stores a lot of our documents and everything like that for sheriff's department, all that kind of stuff. But in the front section of it, there's a lot of different stations, all this kind of stuff set up for our election officials, our election workers to go through, open up our ballots and what that official legal process looks like in order to get those counted. It's a bizarre scene that anybody can go down and see, but I think I really recommend everybody go down. Anybody is allowed to sign in. You can take a look, even if you don't know all the steps on there. It'll list exactly what's going on. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps in the first room. Then there's a few more when it comes to actually like the computer lab and counting and tabulating and indicating and all this stuff. There's a lot.
I want to say we're going to have you for the next hour as well. Can you, because we got to go to break in just a little bit, but can you tell us just number wise, because everyone's looking at the results right now and they're like, okay, that's it, it's final, everything's been counted. How many ballots are yet to be counted? Where are we at?
So this is one of the weird things with our current system right now is we've only taken in about 126,000 from last night. And I can explain more about where those come from, but we still got 64,000 that have not been counted. So about a third of all of our ballots have not been counted yet.
Wow.
A third. I mean, if you're a candidate, you besides sitting on pins and needles, the results right now are, just far away from being final.
Well, yeah, because that is one of those things. Like, if you're in a close race right now, it's not over.
Veva Islas, Karen Steed, 25 votes.
Yeah, no, that could go either way.
It could go either way.
It could go either way.
Michael Marr within 4,000 votes.
Yeah.
And this is just Fresno County, but.
Well, the other thing too, though, is just any county that uses a vote-by-mail system is going to be similar spot, which is all of California.
Yeah. You said something before we started here, and I wasn't thinking about this. It's genius. We changed the way we vote.
Yes.
You said the model that we used to use versus the model today. Describe that for our listeners.
Oh, yeah, of course. So when we had the precinct model before, everybody had their designated precinct. We'd have several, we could have hundreds of them set up in the county where people
people's
could go.
Garages.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first time I voted, I think it was in a neighbor's garage.
Yeah.
And so you can have like a small team of a handful of people all there, and think of it as, many hands make light work. So you've got all of this spread out, and that's how we were able to do it all in the night, because you had hundreds of these small teams all scattered out, counting a smaller number of ballots all together all at once. That's how we could get that number. Once we moved to our current Voters' Choice Act vote-by-mail system, it's created just this massive bottleneck. So instead of having lots of different teams that can do it. Everything needs to go through the team of 4 people to go through and count or to verify every single signature. So every single vote by mail ballot must go through each of these stations. So instead of just lots of people doing it all at once, one team it just goes one step at a time, one team at a time, and so it's just bottleneck.
I'll tell you, we have to take a quick commercial
Wow.
break, but we come back. I want to preview a very special event happening here in Fresno, a play that's going to be taking place at the Clovis Veterans Memorial Auditorium. We're going to have them in studio next. Sean Burdine will be joining us in the next hour. Thank you, Lisa Moreno. And also, when we come back, will the average American tell you who they voted for? Interesting statistics on that coming back up here on the Best Talk in Town, Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
They won't.
No.
All right. I totally.
The Guillermo Moreno Show on the Best Talk in Town.
1550 KXEX. Write it down.
Oh man, am I so happy that election time is over, because then I get to talk about a lot of other stuff besides politics. And I told everybody that the show after Election Day was going to be filled with nothing but like puppy talk and Play-Doh, because we have just been hammering it on for 2 years. But looks like the campaigns aren't over, the elections aren't over, but I'm really happy that I can talk about something else besides politics for this segment here. In studio, joining me is Roger Bergman. He is the vocal director for Center Stage Clovis Community Theater. Don Watnick, my good friend, who is also the treasurer for Center Stage Clovis Community Theater, and he's also an elected member of the Clovis Veterans Memorial District. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Good to be here. Thanks.
And,
very good to be with you, Guillermo.
And I love Center Stage because you guys did a play last year, and is it always the end of the year play?
No, we're working hard to try to develop more plays. In fact, we have a couple of plays scheduled. I wish I had a playbill. It's got the names of plays. I don't know, Roger, do you remember?
I don't. This is actually my first show with Center Stage, and so it's kind of an opening of a doorway. As looking down the road.
Roger Bergman, you're the vocal director,
right?
And I lost my voice last night. Would I still be allowed to act in the play?
Absolutely
talking
not.
Like this. I tell you, I don't even know. Roger Bergman in studio here. So the play is All Is Calm, and let me tell you, if you haven't been to a Center Stage Clovis Community Theater production, it is amazing. They do such a great job. But so this year, the play is All Is Calm. Now, when is it?
Okay, so All Is Calm, and actually the full title, All Is Calm, The Christmas Truce of 1914. And it's based on an event, true story, that happened during World War I, and with these men, and it's an amazing Christmas kind of miracle story.
Is this where they're out in the woods?
Well, yeah, they're in trenches, and somehow they decide, they all start singing Christmas carols. They get up out of the trenches, and they begin to sing together, the Germans and the English. It's amazing, and you would never think it happened, and it did. So this is a retelling of that in a musical form.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's 14 men singing a cappella, no musical accompaniment, and they are over the top talented. I don't have any talent, but Roger can speak to the talent of these 14
Oh
men.
yeah, very talented group, and it's tough. A cappella just means there's no orchestra, there's no background tracks, there's nothing. It's all them singing by themselves, and there's dialogue in between. The dialogue is all from letters from the men that were there, and so it's very moving. Yeah, because you're hearing the story as told by the men of the time.
Oh man, I love it. All Is Calm, The Christmas Truce of 1914,
Yes.
Center Stage at Clovis Community Theater. Roger Bergman, the vocal director, Don Watnick in studio here. Where is it going to be held this year?
It is going to be held in the Clovis Veterans Memorial Building auditorium, and the auditorium has undergone a massive upgrade with all new sound, all new lighting, and one of the largest LED walls in the valley.
It is.
Jim Franklin tells me his wall is bigger, and it may be, but ours is one of the biggest.
No, I'm gonna go with you guys on that. If not, I'm gonna donate money to the Clovis Vets so they can get another panel, and it'll be the biggest video. Well, what they're able. I've been to some of the shows where they do entire movies with the video wall in the background. It is insane. So when you guys are going to do the production, All Is Calm, the video wall just brings.
Oh yeah.
It takes you to another place. I mean, this is the latest technology, and it's going to be used for All Is Calm, The Christmas Truce of 1914 at the Clovis Veterans Memorial Auditorium. It is amazing what they've been able to do.
And it's going to open this Saturday. So Saturday there are two shows: a 2:00 matinee at 2:00, and then an evening show at 8:00. And then the following week, there's a Thursday night, the 17th, at 8:00, a Friday night, the 18th, at 8:00, and then Saturday, the 19th, again, 2 shows. So a grand total of 6 shows. And I think tickets, the regular prices are $25 per person. There's a discount if you're a veteran or a senior, and I believe if you're a student, I think.
That is still a great deal.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
it is.
I mean,
Yeah.
25 bucks.
I know, right?
That's a
Yeah.
steal.
And groups of 10 or more
Right.
also.
Is a break
I,
for that.
I believe it's 15. Don't hold me to that.
I think you're right.
All is Calm, the Christmas Truce of 1914, Center Stage Clovis Community Theater. It's going to be at the Clovis Veterans Memorial Auditorium. An amazing story, true story. Where do they get tickets? Where can the general public get tickets?
So the best way is to go on to centerstageclovis.com, and there's a place to click on tickets, and all 6 of the shows show up. Just click on that, and you'll see a map of the theater, and you can find where so it's reserved seating, and you can choose your seats and book them right there online.
CenterStageClovis.com, CenterStageClovis.com. Get your tickets. Get them now. It's running until November 19th.
Yes.
Matinee this Saturday.
Yes, this Saturday, and an evening show this Saturday.
And an evening show.
Yeah.
So you guys had dress rehearsal, right?
We're in the middle of dress rehearsals, all week long. And I'll tell you what, I was even amazed at how with the lighting and the sound and the fog machine, and I mean, you're there. It's really something else. So.
Guillermo, I did have the opportunity to attend the rehearsal last night, and I saw an earlier rehearsal when they first started to rehearse.
Pound out notes.
They were really good then. They are just over the top now. It is. You're going to be blown away. This is a very special show. It is 70 minutes long. There are no intermission, and it's going to feel like it's 5 minutes long. It's incredible.
No, man, it's a family event.
Absolutely.
It really is. Bring the kids. As we get ready for the holiday season, what a better way to do. There's no better way.
And it's real history where 2 enemies come together spontaneously and have a truce. They actually play soccer together. They exchange gifts. They enjoyed each other's company. Then, of course, the next morning, they went back to their trenches. And
Commanding officer said, "Go back at it." They had to go back at it.
There was this happened all along the Western Front. True story. Also, Roger may not even know this. There was one particular German. He was a private who would not come out of his trench, would not participate. He wanted to keep shooting, and his name was Adolf Hitler.
Wow.
I did not know that. Wow. Okay.
Wow. All right. The play is All Is Calm, put on by Center Stage Clovis Community Theater, the musical. All Is Calm, and it is the Christmas Truce of 1914. Roger, Don, thank you so much for coming in and letting us know about this fantastic production. And you can get tickets at centerstageclovis.com, centerstageclovis.com. Don't forget, beginning this Saturday, 2 shows running until November 19th. Again, centerstageclovis.com. Roger and Don, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guillermo.
The Guillermo Moreno Show on the best talk in town. 1550 KXEX. The lineup has been announced for the virtual Ozfest that's taking place in the metaverse. Seems kind of redundant, though. If you want to see a virtual Ozzy Osbourne performance, you can just go to an Ozzy Osbourne concert. A study shows men who are obsessed with working out have a higher risk of depression. I guess that. The Guillermo Moreno Show on the best talk in town. 1550 KXEX. Write it down.
A big thank you to Center Stage Clovis Community Theater. Hopefully none of the guys sound like me while they are singing in the musical All Is Calm. All Is Calm is starting this weekend, the Christmas Truce of 1914. Make sure to get your tickets at centerstageclovis.com, centerstageclovis.com, running the 12th through the 19th at the Clovis Veterans Memorial Auditorium. And let me tell you, they have a really cool new LED wall, and it is going to add an entirely new element to this. So centerstageclovis.com, centerstageclovis.com. And if you forgot, centerstageclovis.com. Sean Burdine, political analyst in studio again. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here because you are you're insightful. You know what's going on with the process on how our ballots get counted on and after election day. But before we do that, I teased a tease and I didn't get to it. But what do you think, Sean, is the number of Americans who will tell you who they voted for?
I'm assuming it's pretty low.
Would you tell me? Well, you probably would. But I would tell you who I voted for.
I mean, I'd tell you. I mean, if somebody were to just call me and ask me, randomly
That'd
on the
be
phone,
weird.
I don't think I'd tell them the truth. I don't think I'd. Yeah.
That'd be weird. All right, so they did some stats. Someone asked who you voted for yesterday. Did you tell them, or did you keep that information to yourself? A new poll found that 1 in 7 Americans never tell anyone who they voted for. That includes friends and family. 14% said never, and another 17% said rarely. Here's another stat from the poll that individuals found interesting. Younger voters don't think anyone really cares if they voted yesterday or not. People were asked whether their friends and family would think if they found out that they didn't vote. What they would think if they didn't vote. Only 29% of the people under 30 think they'd be shamed for it. 26% think their friends and family would actually approve of them not voting. Another 26% said they wouldn't care either way.
That's really interesting.
And it's
that really is. I mean, especially like such an age, like generational sort of breakdown on that.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, is it just like sort of just that general sort of apathy of being young, or is it more something that you think is going to kind of carry on with that kind of peer group?
I wouldn't talk to my family for at least a week.
Well, I mean, I got to be part of the process, right? I mean, yeah.
Producer, did you vote? You better. Where's your sticker? Where's your I voted sticker? Oh, you dropped it. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, I'm not talking to you for about a week. No, I'm joking. All right. Sean Burdine, political analyst. And speaking about the I voted sticker and dropping the ballots off, the entire process, you spend time at the vote center. You're there. You were there last night. You're there today. I want to get this stat out again. You told us that there is approximately 64,000 ballots in Fresno County. All right, this is Fresno County.
Just Fresno.
And I know it can be confusing for our listeners who go on and they might want to see the Costa Michael Maher race. And they just remember races might have multiple counties. So that's always tricky. It always trips me up like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, my goodness, he's up. Oh, wait a minute. I'm on this website. So you got to be careful. This is Fresno County, though.
Right. Because there is a difference there. Because if we're looking at just the county breakdown, because you start getting into these other races, they've got very different districts, and it's going to overlap across multiple counties. And so some of them are maybe they're just barely dipping in. Maybe it makes up most of the county. So, but as far as Fresno County goes, at the end of last night, the total number of ballots that have been collected was all of the vote-by-mail ballots, plus anything that people did like the tabulator machines, you vote in person, traditional, or using the touchscreen method. All of those are fed into the tabulator. So we have the numbers for that, plus all the vote by mail before election day. That's the total number that's been reported so far.
Can that number go up?
Well, it's going to go up from here, but not until tomorrow.
So there's total of 126. Did I write? No, 126 have been counted. There's another 64,000 to be counted. That doesn't include the people that dropped in their ballot yesterday in the United States Postal Service blue box.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, that's where we're at right
Wow.
now. Is we still have about a third of all of our ballots have not been counted yet for our county.
Isn't that crazy?
It's mind blowing. That's one of the things why I spend so much time watching this stuff, because it is one of those things, like, it's been mind blowing to me to see what our new process is really like. Because you it's one of those things for me. I hear things from this person, from that person. It's just like, I really want to know what it really looks like, what's really going on here.
Well, here's a $1 million question.
Yeah.
Is it? How should I say this? Should we worry about voter integrity in Fresno County based off of what you did? Should I be worried that, you know what, they're gonna cheat or someone's gonna rig it?
I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, so part of my background too is I work directly with Election Integrity Project California, where we really analyze a lot of that stuff based on all of my experience, my time spent in Fresno County. I don't think that we are a county like, say, Maricopa or Los Angeles or anything where things are super heavy, but there are some aspects of our current system that I can't say I have the utmost, trust and confidence in.
Now, the system, can any system be perfect?
I don't think that any system can be perfect, but my concern, is kind of like the idea of, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
The more you add into this process, the more steps you involve, the more you add to it, all the different hands that your ballot's changing through. When I worked for Election Integrity Project, we had a couple words that I loved, which was weaknesses and vulnerabilities. And so I'm not necessarily saying that, there's absolutely something happening or, this person's doing it. All I'm saying is that the more you add to it, the more opportunities for mistakes. And if somebody wanted to cheat, there are options out there. And so, I mean, it's one of those things for our county. I can't completely rule out that there's opportunities out there. I think there are things that we can do to rein that back in. For me, getting away from the vote by mail system as a whole would be a huge win in terms of feeling more confident in their election system. But it's one of those things that all of California right now is doing. It was pushed during COVID, all the lockdown periods. We're not allowed to go outside anymore, so you got to mail your ballot in.
So I want to get a picture for the listeners. So it takes place at the county warehouse.
Yes.
There's a huge processing center. How many people are in there, like, just at a given time?
Well, it depends. Right now, last night, there was a total of about 60 people hand counting all of the ballots so they could get to the 64,000. They didn't leave.
What do you mean, like hand counting? Does that mean like opening the envelope and just...
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about what that looks like on election night. What's going on there? So for election night, we get the preliminary total based on all of the vote by mail ballots that are already tabulated. The next major update is going to be all of the memory cards from the vote centers. So whenever you vote on a tabulator, it's recorded on a memory card. They collect those. They upload all those.
Physically, or it gets like emailed over?
Oh, they actually bring them all in. So the tabulator has like a memory card in it. Those are removed on election night. They're brought to the election center. And then so 54 plus the one in Kern are all uploaded into one computer, and that's where we get the numbers for in-person voting. That's how we know in-person voting right now, is because of our Dominion tabulator memory cards. Those are all uploaded tonight. Any vote by mail ballot, whether it be through a drop box, through the postal service, whether you drop it off inside a vote center, also those are collected, and there's a hand count on election night, but they are not actually fully processed and collected. We probably won't have all of those collected until sometime middle of next week.
Wow. So before election day even happens, they've already done some counting. They don't do that in Arizona, right?
To be honest, I'm so focused on our California system on stuff. So what's happening right now is we are just overloaded. It's all going through that one bottleneck. So if you voted with a vote by mail ballot on election day, it's going to be sitting there for at least a few days before it's all fully counted. So that's why there's that number of about a third of all ballots. So we're about 40% for our county. We had 25%, figured out on election night. So we still have like another 15% total for our votes that have not been counted yet.
Wow.
But a lot of these races, if they're close, I mean, we may not really know until days from now.
No, man, I couldn't imagine being a candidate with just the nerves of. Anyhow, Sean Burdine, political analyst, can be with us in the next hour. Matthew White coming up as well. But, I know you've missed it, so we got to do another installment. This is not headline news. I repeat, this is not headline news.
This is not headline news. The lineup has been announced for the virtual Ozfest that's taking place in the metaverse. Seems kind of redundant, though. If you want to see a virtual Ozzy Osbourne performance, you can just go to an Ozzy Osbourne concert. A study shows men who are obsessed with working out have a higher risk of depression. I guess that explains why Kevin James is always so happy-go-lucky. The royal family posed for a new portrait. It's a little hard to see them because of the flash bulb reflection bouncing off Prince William's head.
Oh, that's mean.
And today is Go to an Art Museum Day. Or you can skip it altogether if the only art in your place is that print of dogs playing poker. This is not headline news.
I love it. All right, you asked for it. That was not headline news. Sean Burdine is going to be in studio still next hour. Matthew White joining us. You're listening to the best Talk in Town, Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. We'll be right back.
Guillermo Moreno Show.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You? I have a greater responsibility, possibly that. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand opposed. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
The red wave, the red ripple, the red whatever. My voice is going in and out. This is Guillermo Moreno still, taken over by. I feel good. My vocal cords are a little wasted, but this is still Guillermo Moreno. The red wave being described as the pink splash, the red ripple. Listen, I want to tell you this. I am worried. I'm not going to say I'm not. I'm extremely worried. We still don't officially have control of the House yet, but don't worry, it's going to happen. Officially, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm really worried. I'm not going to hide it. It's not all doom and gloom. I get it, but I'm really worried about the results last night. Really worried now even more so about 2024. And apparently, America is not as bad off as we thought it was, or at least the American voter didn't think it's that bad off based on the results from last night. So my takeaway, Guillermo Moreno's takeaway is this. Republicans, you got to show up. Every time there's an opportunity to show up, you got to show up. And we're never going to win unless we can get more Republicans to the ballot. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I'm worried, but the good thing is you get to hear me from now until 2024. We're going to work through it together. It'll be like therapy. We're going to talk about it. We're going to work this out. And to help me, I guess, put it all into perspective is my esteemed panel. We have with us Matthew White, senior KXCX correspondent in studio. Matt,
hey, great to be here.
Good to be. You sound great.
Should I should dilute it a little bit so we
No,
can be more even.
don't sound.
Guillermo, no playing.
Yeah, no, you're good. And then our Sean Burdine, who is a political analyst in studio with us too. He knows about the process, where your ballot goes, what's happening to your ballot, what's happening with the incoming ballots. He's the numbers guy right now on what's going on in Fresno County. So, Sean, a pleasure to have you in studio.
Oh, pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
So it looks like we went at 49 at the 4 o'clock hour, right? So we are one away. I think did a Senate seat just flip our way? No.
Yeah, I think we're still waiting. I know Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Of course, Georgia's going to a runoff next month. That was announced last night.
Yeah. All right.
Still waiting on Nevada. I wonder if where Nevada was at. That was favorable.
Yeah, I was surprised at Nevada, Matt. It was the early returns were showing that the Democrats were in charge in Nevada. Sisolak was up and Cortez Masto was up. But then I woke up this morning. I'm like, whoa, I like that. I like that vote drop, unlike the one on in 2020. But guys, let me ask you this. I think everybody wants to know this. What happened last night? What happened? Why didn't the Republican Party do better?
I think there's a lot of factors that why voter turnout wasn't. One, of course, it's a midterm election, not a presidential election. And this was actually the first election where Trump wasn't on a ticket. You know, I'm a big Trump guy.
That's
so
a
I
good
think
point.
there was not enough, energy. This was a chance for the establishment, our rhinos, our favorite rhinos, our Mitch McConnells, to prove the Trumpers, the America Firsters wrong. And we kind of got what we expect from the establishment. We kind of got, like you said, what is it? What are they saying now? It's the red splash
The
instead
ripple,
of
the splash,
the ripple. The only red wave was in Florida, and there's a lot of things that you've seen in Florida. Of course, having 900,000 more Republican voters in the state of Florida helps. 62 out of 67 counties there Republican. So there's a lot of things that I think that factored in, and I think Trump is a key factor on why we didn't see as much turnout, especially in Pennsylvania. A lot of the rural voters didn't turn out to vote. And we saw that in the Dr. Oz race. And now you got a guy like Fetterman that's going to be in there for 6 years.
Wow.
And yeah, we saw that. And of course, Dr. Oz wasn't probably the best candidate to run because he wasn't even popular with the Trump base from the start.
So voter turnout. Sean, I think you had the best perspective that I heard today based on what happened last night, and it's based on perspective, right?
Well, I really think that politics is largely a perception battle.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to frame things in positive lights, depending on what we like. And it's all just that perception game. So to me, I really think that going into this sort of election, it's a major risk and a branding mistake to try to label it as it's going to be this red tsunami, which is going to be this massive, massive win. Because if you don't have that massive, massive win, it's going to come off as a failure no matter what. And so I think it's really important to set yourselves up going into things where you have the ability to frame your successes and not allow your opposition to frame your failures. So what we find ourselves in today, where I'm looking across the country, and it's actually a pretty mixed bag. I mean, we're going in there and we have these big expectations, and obviously we didn't get there. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think there's still some good things here. There's some things to learn. And we need to look for those and try to figure out what we can do for 2024.
So I already took your advice, and I started every hour with "We're going to lose in 2024." I think that's
we gotta. It's what under promise over deliver.
Yeah. That's what we really should have done. So that's kind of our insight on what happened. Local insight, Sean. You're in a unique position because you've been down to the county now twice in the last 2 days. You're seeing the ballots come in. For our listeners this hour, how many votes have been counted? How many are still to be counted? And how many more are going to come in still?
So right now, when you go and you look at our totals at the moment,
Fresno County.
For just Fresno County, votes cast is 126,400. And so what that's based on is that is all of the vote by mail ballots that came in before Election Day and everything that was voted in person on Election Day through the tabulators. So all of the vote by mail previously was processed, tabulated, all that. And then for the stuff from that day, they were able to upload the memory cards and get that information. Any vote by mail ballots that were either dropped off through a drop box, whether it be inside or outside a vote center or through the postal service, has yet to be counted. And so we're still looking at another 64,000 ballots that have not been tabulated for our county. And you got to keep in mind too, because we have this vote by mail system throughout California, it's largely going to be very similar situations in every county right now.
Man, and there's 64,000 that yet to be counted. But that could even be more because if you dropped it in the mailbox yesterday, that's still en route to the vote center.
Potentially. So we're right now. And so I just want to say those numbers one more time because it's 126,000 that have been recorded and another 64,000 that have not. So about a third of all votes for our county have not been counted yet.
So how do you rest easily? I think the closest race within the border of Fresno County is the Karen Steed Beva Islas race. Within 25, you have 64,000 votes. Now, roughly, not everybody lives in the McLean area. I mean, you still have maybe, this is just based off of my kind of perception, maybe about another 2,000 votes maybe in that district left. If I were to get it to the granular level, you got the numbers?
Yeah, has everything here. It's all printed out.
Yeah, well, these are straight from the ROV.
This is why we're the best dog in town. I mean, you're not getting any of these numbers. Matt, what do you? And I asked Sean in the last hour, are you pretty comfortable with the integrity of our elections? And Fresno is not.
It's shoddy. I'm just being frank here. So there's a skepticism, I think, and I think because you look at a state like Florida, where DeSantis put voter ID in, ballot harvesting is outlawed there. They have an election day police force there to make sure everything they do. These are things that establish in Florida, and look at the results there. They're getting everything counted that day. All the same systems. But here in California, we got to wait pretty much 3 weeks to a month sometimes. Hopefully by Saturday we have an idea who's going to win, but we don't know. Jim Costa's hard at work right now.
We might as well start. We might as well start 2024 tomorrow because it's going to take us that long to count the ballots.
Exactly.
Well, I just wanted to go back to your question about how many the numbers were. So based on what we have already, our preliminary numbers, it's only 16.97% for that total precinct district for that race. Only,
McLean area?
For the Viva Islas Karen Steed race, it's about 17%. So that's 4,000 out of the 24,000.
Wow.
So
is that potentiality of votes, or that's
There's 20,000 potential ballots still in play for that.
So when you're looking at 25, it can go either way.
So it is one of those things where because also the way this vote by mail system works, those ballots are just, we know how many we have. We have no idea who they are yet, because in order to find that out, you need to scan the envelope, because everybody's envelope has a unique barcode that is tied to them. And so that's what there's electronic signature verification machines. So that they'll scan through that, they'll scan the barcode, and that's how they know that that envelope belongs to which voter. And that's when they'll also find out which precinct it belongs to. So of those 64,000 ballots that are just waiting to be tabulated, we know they're there. We have no idea which precincts they're attached to.
Man, there's a lot of football to be played.
It's one of the things too with this whole vote by mail system. And that's why I have such a concern about it, because we just there's such a huge process involved with all this, and it just makes it very difficult to really know exactly what's happening, and it really makes the process take a very long time.
Yeah, wow. John Burdine, political analyst in studio with us. He's been at the vote center. Are you going to keep going back every day, or wait?
Yeah, no, I plan to. I spent the last couple election cycles down there at least once a day, almost every single day, sometimes twice a day.
Wow, that's awesome.
He's on the ground and actually making the push there. And Sean, we probably expect you to be there until 2024. So he'll have a beard.
They've got a
be
bedroll
like Forrest
for
Gump.
me there. Yeah.
And 2024 election will come, and he says, "No, I'm tired. I think I'm gonna go home now." So but I appreciate being able to have the tenacity to be out there and be like, hey, we're gonna make sure this election is fair, in my county, because there should be a lot more people doing that. And until we see these elections flip, where we see Biden the most popular president ever, 80 million votes, and everybody's like, yeah, right. This guy was in his basement for a year, and there were some questions there, and of course all the videos and stuff that were coming out from all the ballot stuffing. So a lot of people are skeptical of the system, and I think that may have even been a part of the low voter turnout. My vote doesn't count.
Well, here's the other thing, and Sean, I know you probably see this firsthand. There's so many variables. Like, what if someone puts it in the voting box but doesn't have the envelope on there? What if they just put the ballot in there? What if you have two? What if you had someone that voted in person, but somehow they also sent in an envelope with their mail at home vote? Which one gets scanned first? Which one counts? Which one doesn't? And there's so many, I have so many questions.
Well, I mean, that's part of it too. It's like, I mean, even with as much time as I've dedicated to this, I'm still learning more to it, because there's so much weird circumstances and all this sorts of stuff. As far as which one would count, it's generally, I mean, just almost always going to be whichever one was scanned first.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother conversation, for better or worse.
What happens if they were at the same time?
I'm trying to think how. Maybe stars align. We can work that out. It's gonna be tricky. I don't know. I haven't seen that one yet.
All right. If you do, I said it here first. Sean Burdine, political analyst. Matthew White, senior KXDX correspondent. All right. Everyone's talking about it. Presidential talk. Joe Biden, is he going to run in 2024? Is President Trump going to announce after last night? The darling of the party is still the darling of the party, the slayer, DeSantis. And then don't forget Newsom also has political aspirations. So, Matt, we'll start with you. Good night, bad night for each of the guys I just named. Biden, Trump, DeSantis, Newsom. Good night, bad night.
Well, I'm just saying with Biden, I just saw an article come across my screen. He says he vows to do nothing different in the next 2 years. So it's the status quo, as Dan Bongino put, welcome to hell for the next 2 years. It's only been 2 years, Guillermo.
I'll say, Jim Franklin, I hope you're listening, because you said I was Armageddon. No,
I'm just saying that was quoting Bongino, but yeah, I'm not looking for a lot of positives from
well, here's the thing with Joe Biden. He said, I'm trying to find the direct quote. He said, our democracy worked last night. Democracy is not in danger apparently anymore.
That's one of those things. I was seeing all those posts where it's just like, our democracy is in danger if Republicans win. It's like, how does it? First of all, it's a constitutional republic, but
yes,
this whole idea that it's only a functioning democracy if one side wins, that to me means.
Well, even Fox News, it was tonight in democracy. It's like what? It's like every single time. And I know Jeremy, producer, my John Doyle fans out there, democracy is cringe. Read some Aristotle, folks. Read some Aristotle.
I'll be happy if they just read the ballot pamphlet and the propositions, to be honest with you.
Well, even then, the propositions are written by all these underwriters that are all paid tons of money, where it's like, oh, good, bad, and.
But good night or bad night for Biden?
I would say, I think a good night
good,
overall.
yeah.
I would say it was underwhelming. I think they were expecting the red tsunami. I think that was what was expected. Like you said, the red ripple, the red sprinkle. I think they were ready to be like shellacked.
Yeah.
Like what we saw in Florida across the whole country. So I think for the Democrats, they're like, oh, I could rest easy. For Republicans, we were expecting so much, and they got nothing.
Yeah.
It was like it's like you're about to get the present that you thought you were getting from your family, and then you open it up, it's like, dang.
I mean, the box looked like the toy that I wanted.
Yeah, it's like it's my new Xbox or something, and then you open it, it's like, oh, okay, boxers. It's the same thing, and I think that's what we got last night. And remember, all day, everybody was hyping it up. So
we were talking about the size of the red wave. I mean, that's how sure we were that it was going to happen.
it was like 2020 with Trump running.
Yeah,
we thought for sure, and of course, there's a lot of questions surrounding the election, but we thought for sure Donald Trump's going to pull it off, and then we're like, ugh.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Sean, good night, bad night for Biden.
I mean, I think it's just one of those things like I was talking about earlier. It's just a matter of that perception. Like we framed it as it was going to be this massive, massive success, and since it's not a massive, massive success, the only way logically to really frame it is a failure, right? And so by contrast, there, if it's a failure for us, then it's got to be a success for Biden. But I don't think that's necessarily true, because I mean, I think a lot of this is really going to come down to looking at individual races, especially at a state by state level. Because I think, I mean, if you look at something like Florida. Like, if you are only looking at Florida, like, that's a massive rebuke against everything like COVID policy, everything that the woke is trying to do, everything that Biden's been saying, because DeSantis has been the number one figure, aside from Trump, really pushing back against this very vocally.
Let me ask you this question, because I think this brings me to another point where, the Florida senators have been governing. They've been governing, and they've been also talking to the media saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. I think a lot of Republicans that are elected, they don't govern, and they don't tell the American people, hey, this is what I'm doing for you. This is it. I mean, Ron DeSantis at every single turn, Disney, you're going to start paying taxes. School choice, we're going to do it. You moms, we're going to listen to you. I mean, at every single turn, Marco Rubio, they've been talking to the American people. A lot of Republicans don't do that.
And I think the key to that is the number one thing of an elected official, and this was something that was asked even in my college classes, what's the number one goal of a politician? To get reelected. If you put yourself out into the light and tell people what you're going to do and don't follow through, they're going to have a reason to not elect you the next term. So it's easier for the majority of Republican governors across the country to just stay out of it and continue to let things just kind of go the status quo. And that's where we see our rhinos, our Republicans in name only, and a lot of our flaky Republicans, because they're looking for that next 6 years when you're looking at the Senate and and every 2 years for the House, as we've seen, Valadeo back and forth trying to play to his district and trying to play, oh, well, I'm a good Republican still. They're trying to get reelected, especially for the House. It's every 2 years. So they're like, like you said yesterday, election starts at midnight. Yeah. And sure enough, this morning at breakfast, who was texting us? Donald Trump. He was sending out the fundraising emails. Are you going to help me as I announce next week? Well, it's already begun.
Well, let's start at Trump. Good night, bad night.
It's funny because he just tweeted out a little while ago. He said, hey, it's a good night in terms of like DeSantis winning. And he's already throwing shade at DeSantis. Yeah. So I think it's already interesting that it's heated up. I think it was a good thing in one way because I think the people, some aspects of his endorsements didn't go through, of course, like your Dr. Oz. But it also shows, I think, that they need Trump. And a lot of people are reading it the other way that, oh, it's because Trump, that all these people didn't win. I think Trump's going to bring an energy for 24.
Well, you have conservatives now, Sean, saying that, hey, Trump just messed it up. I mean, this is a rebuke. This is, he should not even, one political pundit locally said he's done. Trump is done.
Wow, really? Oh, my goodness. The most powerful person in the party right now.
See, exactly. I mean, because to me, ever since 2015, honestly, I mean, 2016 especially, but since 2015, he's become kind of the spirit of the modern right. This whole pro-national message, this whole pro-working class, like, your politicians, your companies have sold you out. They're looking at Chinese money, all kinds of other money. They're getting into the woke capitalism, all this stuff. And Donald Trump's been calling it out for years. He's been getting targeted for it. You've had the same, we get into the rhinos, but how about like the rhino pundits and stuff? Like some of these people, were major names for a while, but they've completely lost touch with what the average conservative voter really feels. And I think Donald Trump has been so popular because he reflects them.
Exactly. And I think people need to take a step back and ask themselves, okay, fine. how much did Donald Trump do for the candidates last night? He did endorse some.
He was very quiet.
Yes, he was very quiet. We know Donald Trump when he wants to do something, when he wants to let the
Well,
whole
you
world.
saw it in the Georgia runoff election the last time
Yes.
around. He was so active. He's out there campaigning every night for these guys, even though they weren't really great candidates in the first place, very low energy candidates.
Yeah.
But he was still out there. But he's been very quiet. You haven't really heard DeSantis even say Trump's name in the past. Find me an interview. Send an interview here to KXDX. You don't see it. And even the first time that he mentioned DeSantis was yesterday, in terms of like he's been saying it in his speeches, but to directly say, "Hey, I got more votes than you in 2020."
Exactly, and I think people have to realize, we're midway now. All right, the last 2 years, President Trump did what I recommended he would do, and that's like, hey, just enjoy the moment, take some time off, go golfing wherever you want. Look at your financials, do whatever you got to do, stay out of it. Thank God he's off of Twitter for the last 2 years. I hope he gets back on. Don't necessarily be quick to respond, and he hasn't done it. I mean, he's been quiet. So for people to be like, "Oh man, this is all his fault," well, Trump didn't go full Trump mode the last 2 years. He specifically didn't go full Trump mode in this election.
Well,
I don't believe
that's why I'm saying that this was an opportunity for the established Republican Party, the GOP, to say, "Hey, Trump, we don't need you anymore. We're going to go win without you." And Trump's like, "Cool, go do your thing." And when the end of the vote totals came at the end of the night, the red wave was the red sprinkle. We didn't get exactly all. I was reading that from an article that I just saw. But the thing is, it's like everybody expected all this stuff. But again, this was a chance. Trump's not on the ballot this time around. I think if Trump would have made his announcement maybe a week ago, maybe that would have excited some of the rural voters, because people are like, "Oh, yeah, Trump's official." Shoot, NBC, CNN, all of them were covering his speech on Tuesday night. They were there, waiting for Trump to say something, and then he kind of bamboozled them a little bit and kind of keep building up the momentum, because people are ready for, I think, Trump to come back. And I think, to say on Sean's point, is you said people were tired of the status quo politicians, and you said the pundits were out of touch, because the thing with Trump, it was the everyday American that loved Trump. It wasn't the intellectual political pundits that are saying Trump's going to be this Republican and he's going to be the status quo. People are like, "Oh, he's talking about the issues. He brought all these issues." Just imagine today where the Republican Party would be without Donald Trump.
I'd be nowhere. I mean, he really is the party. Like, who
Who
gets excited
else?
about Mitch McConnell?
Oh,
No, nobody. There's no.
And I don't even think there's as much of a DeSantis, because if you look at it, a lot of people, when DeSantis started talking, it was like all the mannerisms, everything was very Trump. Take Trump out of the equation, say he lives this billionaire lifestyle. Who do we have right now? Especially for the Democrats, we have a Hillary Clinton president. For the Republican, who is it? Mitt Romney? Paul Ryan?
We're not going back to those. Yeah.
So here's the other aspect, and I hope everyone starts to shift the focus. Yeah, fine. Worry about who the Republicans are going to choose, but the Democrats have a worse problem with their ticket. I mean, are they going to go with Joe Biden again? Are they going to go with Gavin Newsom? Who are they going to go with? So I want people to stop being so fixated on who we're going to put up. Hey, who's the left going to put up?
No, it goes back to the Moreno Manifesto. Let them do their thing. They're going to already mess it up. They've already done it for 2 years.
I think that's also another important thing to talk about, because I mean, we on the right, I think we really get focused on our internal kind of conflict here, establishment versus conservative, like true conservatives, grassroots, all that. The left is going through a massive identity crisis also right now. Where they're getting pulled further and further left, and it's getting. I mean, America by and large is not on board with woke. Like, go woke, go broke has been almost universally true. You got parents that are showing up. They're tired of all the transgender, all the weird sex ed stuff that's getting pushed in there. And so you've got the far left components of the Democrat Party that are insisting on pulling them further and further into areas that just do not have mass appeal, not mass support. And, so I think we're going to start to see more of that kind of play up. And I think it's interesting also to watch, like, a character like AOC, where she ran on those sorts of issues, but while she's been in office, she's been not that, and she's been losing a lot of her support base on that. So what's going to continue to happen there? Is she going to keep doing that? Is she still going to have momentum? And so a lot of these weird characters, weird dynamics over there are, I think, even further, we're further along through our sort of process, and I think the policies and ideas that people like Trump and DeSantis support actually really do have mass support. So we keep going down that route, I think we'll be in good shape. And, we keep talking about those things we have in common, those basic ideas that it's about the economy, it's about the common working person. Don't want the woke. I think that those are good topics to run on.
Yeah, and I think we see that with the platform. In 2020, the platform was way different for Trump than 2016. 2016, it was unabashedly like, we need to put America first. This is what we're going to do from day one. We're going to make Mexico pay for the wall. We're going to go make sure our allies and even enemies are accounted for. We're going to go and do that. 2020, he had more of a softened approach. He was more playing the populist, playing more of a moderate card in 2020. He wanted to get mass appeal. That did not work. I think he strayed away from his 2016 message. It was like a softer version of Trump.
Do you think 2024 will mirror 2016? Because you have an establishment candidate, you got a Biden, you have these issues that, again, at the border, it's like the sequel.
Yeah, and honestly,
yeah, it is.
And what I've seen by a few commentators is that, a lot of people are like, oh, well, if DeSantis runs. I honestly think if DeSantis does run, it might be a net positive for Trump because it's going to be opposition on the right side. All the opposition to Trump is on the left. You have your rhinos, they're already going to come after Trump. We saw it in the debates in 2016.
Yeah.
As DeSantis
That's so
run,
true.
Yeah.
Trump is massively popular among rural Midwest America. Those people that didn't turn out to vote yesterday. You bring those people out, and of course, getting new voters excited to turn out. Man, I remember being on college campuses, and MAGA was cool. It was different. Everybody else is kind of doing their thing. They got their little Joe Biden stuff. They're like, yeah, that's not cool. But who's going to get that voter, that new voter? It's going to be somebody like Trump. He has a cult following.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in a bad way. So,
well, Trump is also a deal maker, and this is what I'm holding out for. I'm really holding out for Trump to give DeSantis a call, and then work out some sort of deal where Trump. I think Trump takes it if he wants it. I think it's gonna be very bloody. I think it's gonna be a bad family fight. It's not gonna be pretty, but I think at the end of the day, I think DeSantis has to also read the tea leaves and say, hey, I had a great night, but is this going to translate into me being the candidate?
So he put out a Truth Social, I almost said tweet, because it is like a tweet, but he said, now that the election is over in Florida, everything went well. It shouldn't be said that in 2020, I actually got 1.1 million votes in Florida, and Ron got 5.7, or 5.7 to 4.6. Just ask. Like, he put that out. Already kind of taking shots, that was my worst Trump impression. But I'm trying.
I'm hoping they can come to a deal because I think them coming to a deal very early on, I think solidifies the conservative message. He's got, and I was talking to the producer. I said, man, what if Trump goes up to him and says, Ron, I love you, man. You're great. Your family's great. I love you. You love this country. Beautiful family. Beautiful. Almost as beautiful as mine, Ron, but you know how that goes. Listen, we'll do a 2 for 2. All right. You're my VP. I'll leave in 2 years. I got money. I'm rich, Ron. I'm really rich. And say 2 years, you get free 2 years. You could run 8 years. You could be president for 10 years. Let's make a deal.
See, for
make
me,
a deal.
This is the biggest thing I can say for Trump. Trump's going for a second term, right?
Yeah.
He can come in, if elected in 24, he can come in unapologetically go. Ron DeSantis runs in 24. He gets elected. He still has to do 1 term. Do you think he's going to be unabashedly for the America First policies, or is he going to be more softened so he can win a second term? Like, think from that perspective, is like you said, you can be president, for 8 years continuously, and it allows, Trump come in, fix the country. Let Trump deal with that. 28, as you're building up the war chest, keep Florida, keep it red, because he abdicates the governorship there.
Yeah,
where does Florida go?
Yeah.
That's a big question too. Nobody's talking about it. It's just it's hypothetical political games at that point.
It is, and so I think it was an okay night for Trump, not necessarily a great night. DeSantis, obviously, everyone's talking. I mean, he had a great night. Some of the headlines.
I bet Laura's not too happy about that. Laura, but the second DeSantis decides to run, the front headline's going to say what Laura always says about, it's D-Satan.
Satan. Yeah. But here's the other aspect on this. I think there is an expiration date on you being the golden person of the right, because don't forget, and it's too early, but I mean, you had Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I mean, she's got I'm sure she has political aspirations.
And honestly, you mention her, but you think about her with DeSantis in 28.
No, that's a ticket.
Now we're talking, I'm not the biggest fan of political dynasties, but man, America first,
I agree.
You could take in, Trump for 4 more years. He gets everything ship shape. Country's going great. We get like the roaring 80s with Reagan, kind of live a little bit of, have a little bit of life, enjoy being an American. I think that's what people want to get back to. And then, you bring in, Sarah Huckabee Sanders with the Ron DeSantis ticket, 8 years. Talking 2 decades later, Sarah Huckabee, first female president.
There you
You
go.
know, I don't know.
Newsom, Gavin Newsom. We know where he's headed. It's just a matter of what you said, Sean.
That's not my governor.
Yes.
Look at the valley. No, I'm playing.
when you talked about this identity crisis, the left has an identity crisis. You have Gavin Newsom. He wants to be president of the United States. He's favored by the establishment. Joe Biden doesn't look like he's going anywhere, which I predicted. Didn't I predict this? Like his first year, I told Alan's guys staying. They're going to run with this guy in 2024. Watch. Everybody was like, oh, you're crazy. But Gavin Newsom, good night for Gavin.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately for us who live here in California, I'm looking across the our results today, for early projections and everything. It is looking, California's not making any major shifts right now. And I think, I mean, the only way to really interpret that one though is it's good for Gavin. And I don't like saying that. I don't want to say that, but realistically, I think that is kind of where we're at right now. We can kind of get into why that might be the case, but I think at the moment though, I mean, it was a good night for Gavin.
Yeah, I think the Democrats have an establishment that is really holding on to the party than we have our establishment. I mean, you have Chucky Schumer, the Obamas, the Bidens. They're the kingmakers.
Well, let's look at the major Democrats on the national stage. You know what state they're predominantly from?
New York,
California. Like almost all of them are from the Bay, Sacramento,
that's a good point.
and SoCal, like LA area. Like we have the Democrat machine in our state by and large. And Newsom, he's a product of it. They're grooming him for it. He's their current pretty boy that they got waiting in the wings for his next opportunity. And they're just trying to keep him as safe as possible.
You have the Kamala problem though.
They do got that.
They
problem.
got so many. I mean, Kamala and Gavin don't like each other. They never have. So I mean, you got that problem playing out. So that's what I'm saying. I think we might have a fight on our hands, but let me tell you, the grass ain't greener on the other side.
No.
Yeah, that's the one thing that gives me optimism about the Republican Party. If it goes in the direction that I think it should go, and that's more toward, those America First candidates, they don't necessarily have to go out and be Trump, but adopting those same issues that you were saying, Sean. People just want to get back to issues, that's the basics. People are hurting in the wallets. People, there's rampant crime.
But why didn't that message resonate? Because when we still officially don't have control of the House. It's going to happen, but it's going to happen by what, maybe plus 4, 5, 6.
And then you're going to have all your rhino dissenters.
You already have the Freedom Caucus saying, "Hey, listen, McCarthy, we want some concessions." You have Trump coming out now playing the political game, saying, "Hey, McCarthy, I want you to become speaker." But Americans aren't hurting apparently enough to go full blown red wave.
My view for a while now has really been that unfortunately things did need to get worse before they could get better, and maybe it still needs to get a bit worse.
I hate to say it that way, but
I wish the election would have happened 1 year ago. During the pandemic, if you would have put a ballot in front of people when they were masking our children in school board races, because that was relevant in this race. We saw a lot of candidates run on. These are the kids. But, people have very short-term memories when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
They're like, well, that was bad, but, we're kind of past that. Let's give them another chance.
No, I mean, you and I witnessed it firsthand where there's so much energy and momentum during all the lockdowns, especially with the schools, the masking and everything like that. And once that stuff started to ease up a little bit, so much of that momentum just was gone. So much energy.
Yeah, and the board meetings became less and less. People kind of went back to normal. They're like, hey, well, we got what we wanted. We fought. We got the end goal. But we don't see that on the other side when we look at the electoral politics. We don't see that, we didn't see it on the national. We didn't see it even at the local, except for the one race that was funded over $100,000. But that makes sense because you had everybody and their mom endorse you. So
you hit it on the nail there, Sean. I think it has to get worse for voters to truly come out and to make this red wave. I don't want it to happen, but this is what someone told me.
Yeah.
Guillermo, it's not that bad. Yeah, I'm paying more at the pump, but what am I going to do? Not drive? Yeah, I can't afford a house, but it's kind of whatever. No, they have this mentality of it's bad, but it ain't that bad.
Right. I do hear some of that, and I do. Some people just. I don't know if it's trying to bury their heads or they're just trying to go get along with it, but I do want to say that there is a bit of hope in that though, in that because of what's already happened in the last couple of years, there's so many conversations and topics and ideas that are actually being discussed and gaining momentum, that several years ago we weren't even touching, we weren't talking about. And I think we're on that track where these conversations aren't going away. We're going to keep having those. And I think we've had a huge amount of people that have left the Democratic Party. I think we're going to continue more of that sort of shift as people leave the left, especially like maybe tonight. Like we're already starting to see like Biden saying we're not going to change anything. I think that there could be also a huge mistake on their part of misreading tonight as like, oh, okay, people are actually okay with what we're doing. And maybe they keep doing those policies and more people continue to sort of reach those breaking points where it's like, I didn't have, it was fine before. We fast forward another year. What are we looking at? I mean, I don't want that to happen. Definitely not. I would have much preferred not reaching that point. But silver lining, if we do reach that point, how many more people are going to start waking up and finally feeling the pot getting hot?
I like that. That is like a great take. And I think, like you said, Biden's not doing much over the next 2 years. So expect gas prices to go up, expect cost of living to go up, expect for things at the grocery store not to be available. And what next? There's going to be another conflict of some sort. Biden's great in the Middle East, right? So and being sarcastic there.
Yeah.
But, it's just not going to get better with Biden, especially with this message.
I think you guys are right. Let's go hyper local. We're not going to take any commercial breaks. We're going to blow straight through.
Yeah, but also I want to thank our Facebook viewers. I know we have Belinda, we have Donna from Ohio on here, Michael,
Ohio.
Vicky. Yeah.
In the house. There you go.
There we go.
Hyper local.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about the national scene for 2024. What I said, I think I said this on Monday. Don't forget, we had a lost opportunity in our city because those city council races were already decided back during the primary. You had Nelson Esparza, you had Luis Chavez, you had the Perea seat that we lost. So we should have been more competitive. And when I look at what's gone on in the Karen Steed race, the Terry Sladek race, the city of Fresno doesn't like polarizing figures. They didn't, that's why they didn't elect Sladek, and that's why Veva is fighting for her political career. Could it been if Miguel Arias was on the ballot still? If Nelson Esparza were on the ballot still? I think those would have been incredibly winnable seats had we not lost them in the primary. So that's kind of my quick take locally, but 2024 also matters locally as well because Fresno will be deciding whether they're going to give Jerry a second term if he decides to take it or not. You have some more seats up. You got Gary Bredefeld is termed out. You have Carbasi up again. So I think locally, and then you have some more Fresno Unified School Board seats. If Veva is gone, does the rest of the school board say, you know what? Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be this radical. Look what happened to our sister over here. She got beat by someone that didn't have a budget, great candidate, $0 really to mount a campaign. Do they change? Do they realize and say, hey, wait a minute, my seat is next. Roosevelt area is next. Hoover area is next. So I think,
and if that's the case, keep doing what you're doing. It's like we'll come in and swoop those seats up next time around, and hopefully, Karen gets across the finish line and can actually make some changes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking. So we're looking again nationally 2024, but I want to bring it home because there's so many seats, supervisorial seats. I think Steve Brandow Patterson is termed out.
Yeah,
I think you're going to see a huge conservative move for that assembly seat. So there's just so much to
honestly,
ponder.
there's a lot of great candidates, I think, on the bench here in the Valley.
I think so.
And I believe we shouldn't have all of them running in one race like we saw.
That might be, that
might be a good one.
Just a bit, yeah.
Yeah, let's put some energy behind some really good candidates. And I think those conversations need to be happening now. If you're the Republican Party of Fresno, your campaigning starts today.
Yes.
Not a year and a half from now when you're scrambling, to organize volunteers. Start getting the social media presence now. Start going out and, getting information about your districts. Go out and see, what's going on. And spend that next 6 months figuring out, hey, is this going to be a run for office?
No, I completely agree with that. I think anybody who wants to run for office, like, you need to start running as soon as possible. And that doesn't necessarily mean you need to announce, but you need to start building up networks. You need to start reaching out to people, figure out where your support base can be. Start,
and name ID. Name ID.
I mean, that's one of the things, is so important for anybody to win. It comes down largely to name recognition.
Yeah, look at what I was telling my mother this last night. I said, look at Clint Olivier.
Yeah,
I mean,
hey, she's in right now. She just hopped on.
Oh,
she's watching. There you go.
Clint, I think he just did signs. He didn't show up to the debate. He won. Name ID.
Right. Well, he showed up to A little bit here and there.
Okay.
But he played a very safe campaign. And I went to a candidate training forum last year where he basically, I mean, he said what his game plan was. What he recommended to everybody was the most important thing is your name recognition. Get good signs that only say your name, the office you're running for. The worst thing you can do is say too much, implode your campaign by putting your foot in your mouth. So what did he do? He put his name out there. He got good signs. He put them in good locations, and he ran a safe campaign.
I saw them every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Going down Sunnyside. You know, that area, everywhere, roundabout, right there by the CVS over there at 7-Eleven, GB3, Kings Canyon, Clovis area. You go down, there it is again. And that was way back.
But Terry Sladek, great location. I mean, he had his name, but...
And the thing with Terry, though, is he became a very polarizing figure. I mean, he was doing everything he could to raise awareness and beat the drum about the problems of Fresno Unified. I absolutely, definitely appreciate that. But I think along the way, this is part of the risk of being such a forward figure like that, and especially the way maybe you talk about certain things or all that kind of stuff. If you alienate too many people, especially in a small-scale local election, I mean, that might just be the difference, because we don't have as many people to kind of pool. When you're working on a large state or national election, you might be able to afford to alienate some people. And I think that's one of the things we need to take away is, money matters. Like who did he lose to? Susan Wittrup, and she raised about $100,000 against him. Like, that is a huge amount of money. And you look at all of her signage, amazing signs. She got all the right recommendations. And so I think right now, for people who are interested in local politics and wanting to get involved at any level throughout the state, I mean, there's a lot of lessons to be learned before you go into this. And,
Yeah, let me give you a good Michael Marr.
Yeah,
I think Michael Marr is and I told my mother this. I said, Michael Marr is, as a candidate, I love Michael Marr. He's such a great man. Everyone that I talk to, he is the guy that needs to be in Congress. Unfortunately, and he still might have a shot. He 4,000 in Fresno, or no, 4,000 district wide, but you have 64. So he's still there.
It's close.
It's close. Mike Marr needed to be in the position he is now a year ago.
Right.
With the contacts he's made, with the connections he's made, it always happens for a candidate at the very end. This is why you got to get out now, because there's so much work to do. You don't want to do it 6 months before election day. It's just, you're not going to make the connections. You're going to make them, but you're going to make them 3 weeks before election day, and that's too late.
It is. And I'm hoping that a lot of these really good candidates, they consider running again. I know for some of them that sounds like the worst possible idea, especially if they had a crushing defeat. But
they'd stab us in the eye right now if they said that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. But no, but seriously though, because now they have some more name recognition. They have some more support base. Maybe they've got places that they can reach out to. And, you're not starting from ground zero again. You've already have a bit of a foundation to build off of. So, hypothetically, if Michael doesn't get it in this one, hopefully he does. But if he doesn't, I really, really hope he and some of these other great candidates run again. People will hear you. People will know you. Again, you're not starting from ground zero like a lot of these people did this last election cycle.
Yep. And I think to add to that is you just have to be, you got to bring the tenacity. And if you're running again, or just be active in helping the next campaign.
Yeah.
Don't just go, oh man, I lost. All right, I'm gonna go home now. And then people leave the fight. They don't ever do anything ever again. They go into the shadows. You never hear from them again. And you're like, oh, well, you could be potentially helping the next candidate get to Congress or city council or whatever the race is, and be a voice, of reason like, hey, we have all these supporters, your volunteers. There's still a base that you created, some energy around your candidacy, and then to just and then we have to restart from ground zero when you have a new candidate run. And the one thing you see from the left, year after year after year, Stacey Abrams. This is the second time around or third?
Third, I think. Third
time. Yeah. She is like, every time I'm going to go. And every single time she's still running. And then, if she keeps pushing and Brian Kemp doesn't keep messaging up, it's still a tight race there. She's gotten closer and closer each time. She didn't win, thankfully. But I think that's something that we don't often see from Republicans as much anymore.
Yeah, get back in the ring.
Because at least Valadeo, I'm not the biggest fan. But at least he got back in after he lost, 4 years ago?
Yeah, TJ Cox.
Yeah, TJ Cox. He got back in the ring and said, hey, let's go again. And the energy of that campaign office, he betrayed Trump, was not happy about that. But you do got to give him credit where credit's due. Is after that happened, he's still out there campaigning again.
True. Local Democrats. We're talking about what we have to do as Republicans to get more people elected. And my mom always says, the Democrats, they start today. Oh, yeah. They already know where they're running. They know who's going to go where. The Democrat machine locally is a machine. It's well oiled. They know what they're doing. I think Nelson Esparza is actually on the Central Committee. So it is a well oiled machine. I know they're looking at themselves today, saying, "Look, Beva was pretty progressive. She's not making it. Maybe not making it. But the Democrats, I think, have a big problem on their hands going into 2024 because you have, I think, Joaquin Arambula is termed out. You have the old style Democrat going up against the young style Democrat here locally. It's been rumored that maybe Arambula is going to challenge Costa if Costa wins. Oh. You have some. I've heard from my left contacts that Joaquin Arambula has mayoral aspirations. He doesn't like Jerry Dyer. Remember the whole, the case where he, slapped his kid. Jerry Dyer was police chief at the time. There's a lot of bad blood there. You have Miguel Arias. He's termed out. Is he going to move up to Assembly? And Nelson Esparza wanted to move up to Assembly. You see this push. I mean, it's by steps. It's whoever's on Fresno Unified School District is going to move to Fresno City Council. Whoever's in Fresno City Council is going to move to Assembly. Look at Esmeralda Soria. Yeah, she's doing that. So I think locally the Democrats have the bench. They're going to inch forward. But I think the Democrats are looking at what's going on in the Central Valley. If Payson pulls it out, which is great. David Shepard down south. I forgot the numbers. Is he still leading Hurtado?
Yeah, I believe so.
You got Valadeo. You got Mike Marr, who might eke it out. You got Beva Islas on the ropes. I think locally for the Democrats, if I were a Democrat, I'd be looking at it saying, hey, it doesn't look as easy as I thought it was. That's a great takeaway, right? I don't know.
I think so too. When you look at, like you said, I think right on, nail on the head there is when you look at the school board. They already know each of the candidates, that ran in this election that are incumbents, all of that have exploratory committees for higher office. They know exactly where they're going. In terms of Republican, and, it's sad to say, but a lot of the times when I hear, Republican candidates, I don't even hear about the candidates till like 6 months out, like you said. Right. And then we're like, all right, let's try to put this energy. But at that point, you're already a year behind. Yeah. And like you said, election day starts today. We already have redistricting done, so there's no question mark. Right. Next election cycle, these districts are set. So if I was a candidate today and I'm like, okay, I am thinking about running this school board or city council race, I would already start looking at numbers from this election. Okay, is this going to be something I'd run? And then you start, maybe 6 months from now, have that announcement. Start doing what people were doing the last 6 months, 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what gets people across the finish line. A lot of people run and there's no name ID, like Sean said. You don't have it, you don't got the money. Nothing else you can do.
And I think there is also an element that you touched on where it's almost like we've been playing catch up as far as like the Republican Party and stuff. The Democrat machine is well oiled. Like, they know exactly what they're doing. They got the strategy. They got everything locked down. They got big money behind them. And I think, we found ourselves in a moment of crisis because we weren't keeping pace with that. But now as we start to, find our stride, figure out what that momentum is, lick our wounds and figure out what to do next, I think, we're going to be in a much better spot for 2024.
Yeah. We're not LA. And I want to tell conservatives, we can win seats. This isn't LA. This isn't San Francisco. Right. This is the Central Valley. We can beat some of these lefties.
There's another important one that I want to touch on because we saw it in play for this one and especially in the primary, that we need to figure out some point early on, especially if we're starting earlier on, which candidate we want to be ours. Because one of the things we suffer a lot from compared to the Democrat side is we split our vote way too much. I think the primary was an example of that. If you look at our primary, we had a bigger Republican turnout in our county, but we lost a lot because we could not just, get behind one guy. So instead of splitting, instead of having one person that gets all the votes, we got 4 people that are all kind of sharing them. And so I'm really hoping, if we can kind of get momentum with people early on, figure out it's like, yes, this is a great candidate. We should support them, start supporting them early. We can give them the best shot possible.
I think Senate District, California State Senate District 5. That was the one that kind of mirrors McClintock. You had about, 5 Republicans. I mean, you had Radonovich, you had Judge Bailey, you had some other wealthy gentlemen in the up north, and you had 2 other, you had 5 candidates. Yeah. 5 candidates. it's a safe conservative seat. And out of the primary, the 2 Democrats went on. I mean, we've lost that seat. It's just insane.
Yeah.
The egos, you got to check them at the door. Who does that though, Sean? Because you have candidates that they all want to be in Congress, right? They all want to be in the California State Senate. They all want to be in the Assembly. I've been in the room when multiple candidates want a seat, and you go. I remember one that I was specifically in the last election cycle, and we went around, and everyone said, "No, I'm the best candidate." And then, "No, I'm the best candidate." "No, I'm the best candidate." And you leave the room, they're not dropping out. And how do you do this? Who does it?
I mean, that's that's the $1 million question. I mean, when I've been involved with all the local politics and stuff, sometimes even something very minute, small, it can cause major division just because people don't want to rally behind somebody else. And so I'm really hoping, if we start the process early, get people out there and people kind of rally behind it, maybe we just, I don't know. Honestly, it's just one of those questions that we do need to sort out, though, because as long as we continue putting up too many candidates and just trying to, shotgun effect, and maybe, we get enough behind somebody, but nobody really gets any traction until too late in the game, we're going to stay in trouble. I mean, like, that is a major problem for us. Like, we do need to figure out how, we get people that the support early on, get the momentum. It's going to be name recognition, get the money so they can make sure they're getting their name out there. I'd prefer not to be quite this cynical on it, but the money, it matters. The name recognition, it matters. As long as we keep splitting things up too much, we're going to keep running into some problems.
Yeah, no, I have to agree, and we just have to, like you said, keep organizing. And the key components of the state party and even the local party here is those endorsements and those things have to be picked ahead of time. There's one thing that I do give props to is when I was doing work down in Bakersfield, their party and everything down there, that is a well-oiled machine. And guess who got elected last night from that down there is Kevin McCarthy. Love him or hate him, well-oiled machine. They know how to get it done. That family down there knows how to get it done, and they know exactly who they're running for the next time around. And look who's across the finish line, at least at the time being, is Valadao. Didn't like him, but at least he's going back to Congress, it looks like right now, and we can do that even at the local level.
Yeah, that's right. We got to work together. I guess final thoughts as we got less than 3 minutes here. Final thoughts. What would you like to see out of this election cycle? Because unfortunately, it's not over. I mean, I want to see.
I'm looking at the results right now.
It's not over. It's gonna be election week. It really is. But I'll start off. We need to win the House. I say by at least plus 10, which I don't know if that's doable. We obviously need to win the United States Senate, and then I think we got to figure out what we're going to do with our presidential campaign. We got to make less of a splash, get down to work. I think McCarthy's it's going to be wrangling cats. That man's got a unbelievably difficult task ahead of him. I want us a week later to be saying, oh, you know what? It kind of was a little bit of a wave. So I hope the numbers, I mean, they could still break for us. Maybe not, but I think we hit it on the money where if you're a candidate or you want to be a candidate, you've been itching to get in politics, now's the time. Don't wait. Get in there, especially to our younger generation. Life happens. And if you are someone with political aspirations, don't wait. Get in, jump in as soon as you can. The water's fine.
Well, I just to echo that one right there, if nothing else, even if you don't plan on running right now, you're still building a network and making huge connections. For when you finally do run, you're ready. You've learned things. So it's never too late to get involved.
Yeah, and getting involved doesn't have to necessarily be running a campaign.
Right.
Join your local grassroots group. Go to your party. Get registered to vote if you're not registered to vote. We saw a low voter turnout, and we talk about the Valley. I always call it the Bible Belt of California. It's all red. You look, it's all, red all in the middle, and we look at the governor, with Newsom and that whole race there. It was very, very much.
All right, Matthew White, thank you so much. Sean Burdine, appreciate you. You're listening to the best talk in town. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. You see them wearing their baggies. Yeah, I know.